This is a pipeline. It connects two major Israeli cities, Ashkelon and Eilat. What's interesting about this pipeline is that it used to be known as the Israeli-Iranian pipeline in the 1970s because the two states worked on it together to transport crude oil through Israel to Europe. But that is a thing of the past. The October 7 terror attack on Israel by Islamist terror group Hamas has put this conflict on a whole new level. Because Hamas is backed by Iran, Iran has now escalated attacks on Israel. Iran-backed and Yemen-based Houthi militants have sounded a war alarm in the Red Sea, majorly against the US-led West. Meanwhile, the Iranian regime has deployed its elite Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps units in Yemen, who are playing a direct role in Houthi attacks in the Red Sea. Iran and Israel are among the biggest military powers in the Middle East, but they are very different. The Islamic Iranian regime denies Israel's right to exist, which is the only majority Jewish state in the world. But the conflict is about much more than Jews and Muslims. It is also about Israel's #1 ally, the United States. We break down for you the historic triangle and what is it really about. Iran's IRGC claimed responsibility for a massive ballistic missile attack on 15 January on Erbil, claiming to have hit spy headquarters. The sounds of loud bangs and explosions across Erbil city around 11:36 p.m. on 14th January scared thousands of residents as at least 5 ballistic missiles struck Erbil. At least 4 civilians were killed and 17 injured as the missiles struck. IRGC claimed that 3 Mossad bases were targeted in the Erbil bombardments, despite the Kurdistan regional government having categorically rejected the presence of Israeli intelligence in the Kurdistan region. Meanwhile, Iran's IRGC commanders and advisors have been deployed on the ground in Yemen and are reportedly playing a direct role in Houthi rebel attacks on commercial traffic in the Red Sea. The IRGC has stationed missile and drone trainers and operators in Yemen, as well as personnel providing tactical intelligence support to the Houthis. The Houthis say that its military operations are designed to aid the Palestinian militant group, Hamas, which has been locked in a 3-month war with Israel. In addition, U.S. naval forces have seized the first batch of Iranian weapons bound for Houthi rebels since the militant group began its Red Sea attacks. U.S. Central Command, which oversees the Middle East, said U.S. Navy SEALs, supported by helicopters and drones, conducted a nighttime seizure of a vessel off the coast of Somalia, south of Yemen. They said it had been illegally transporting weapons parts to the Houthis. After Israel declared independence in 1948, Iran was actually among the first Muslim-majority countries that recognized the new state. So, what happened then? The Iranian Revolution in 1979 turned everything upside down when the Western-backed Shah regime was toppled. Ruhollah Khomeini, the leader of the Islamic Revolution, saw Israel as part of the so-called West in the middle of the majority Muslim world as a problem. And ever since, the Iranian regime doesn't recognize Israel as a state. The Palestine Square formed the heart of Iran-Israel conflict. After Hamas' October 7 attack on Israel, people in Iran protested here in support of the Palestinians, and some even in support of Palestinian militant group Hamas. But remember, Iran is an authoritarian state. Hence, these protests might not reflect what people actually think. However, it's important to understand that ever since the Iranian Revolution, the Iranian regime presented itself as a vocal supporter of the Palestinians. You have already heard of the Palestinian militant group Hamas, which attacked Israel on October 7, 2023. and is deemed a terrorist organization by the US and the EU. Hamas is not the only group in the region that gets funding and arms from Iran. These so-called proxy armies include Islamic Jihad in Gaza and the West Bank, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Syrian Armed Forces, Popular Mobilization Force in Iraq, and Houthis in Yemen. Backing Hamas gave Iran the opportunity to position itself as the leading supporter of the Palestinian cause in the Arab world. Just a reminder, most Muslims in the world are Sunni, including most Palestinian Muslims. So are most Muslims in Saudi Arabia, a big player in the region and the Iranian regime's archenemy. Saudi Arabia and Iran actually compete for influence in the Middle East. Iran, however, has a Shia majority. Same goes for most Iranian proxies in the region, such as Hezbollah. So let's travel a bit further to the north, to the Lebanon-Israel border region. This area in southern Lebanon is under the control of Islamist militant group Hezbollah, which is, like Hamas, backed by Iran. And then there are the Houthis, which operate mainly in Yemen. The hatred against Israel often goes hand in hand with hatred against the United States. Meanwhile, Yemen-based Houthis have targeted Israeli-linked ships in the Red Sea. This puts Iran in proxy confrontation with Israel. But does that also mean Iran itself could act against Israel directly at some point?